Welcome back to Inventor Tic-Tac-Toe tutorial day 4, 9 holes on the front, iPad edition. In this video, we're going to look at how to create each of these 9 identical holes that are centered in these squares so that we could play our tic-tac-toe game. Let's pull some things off the technical sketch so we can understand what it is we're drawing, what sizes, what locations. So looking at our front view, you're going to see a leader line that points at one of the holes, and it says 9 holes, meaning that it speaks for all 9 of these holes. There are 2 things going on here. One of them is the diameter, or the distance across a hole through the center point, and this is the size of our hole. That's going to be 0.40. You're also going to see a line with an arrow pointing down that is 0.33. That's going to be the depth that we cut these holes in. The reason it's over here on the front view instead of on the side view like we saw with the grooves is because we can't actually see the holes from the side view. On the side view, you were able to see those grooves. You could see them poking out. But you're going to notice the holes are actually hidden. They have dashed lines, meaning that you can't physically see them, but they exist. So you can't put a dimension on a hidden line. So that's why we have a call out over here that tells us the depth of those 9 holes. So we know the diameter, we know the depth, but now we need to know the position left to right and up and down. So for that, we need to look at some of the dimensions that you're going to see pop up quite a bit. 0.53. So this is going to be consistent for all of the holes. What we're trying to do is center the circle in the middle of this square. So we need a dimension from the side to the middle, and you're going to see that is 0.53. We need a dimension from the side to the middle, and you're going to see that is 0.53, which coincidentally is exactly half of the height of that square. Now that we know what size, now that we know what location, and now that we know what depth, we're going to go back and attempt to do this together. So, first thing I always like to do is pull down my ribbon and make sure I turn my pointer on. Second thing I like to do is pull down my ribbon, open my keyboard, and pin the Tab, Escape, and Windows bar so that I always have access to them. So now, taking my pointer, I'm going to go up to File, Open, looking in my H drive. Very important that we're always looking in our H drive where we saved our files. I'm going to go and grab my tic-tac-toe demo, and I'm going to open it up. So we need to start a new 2D sketch. I'm in the 3D Model tab. I'm going to grab the symbol for Start 2D Sketch. It wants to know where do I want to sketch, so I'm going to take my pointer and click in this top left square, and it's going to spin the view. Next thing we always do once we start a sketch is we center it. On the navigation cube, I'm going to click the word front, and it puts everything back into the middle of my screen. So what we need is a center point circle. It's already selected for me out of the list of all the tools. So all I need to do is grab the symbol for the center point circle, click. I'm going to bring my pointer down, and I want to click somewhere in the middle of this square. Currently doesn't matter where I click, somewhere in here, click. And now I want to type in that dimension that we talked about. Right here. The diameter is 0.40. Whoops. Let me erase all of that. So back in Workspace, I'm going to show you a trick with the keyboard where I open up the keyboard. I'm going to take 2 fingers and I'm going to pinch on the keyboard, and you're going to see it starts to shrink. So now that the keyboard has shrunk, it's off to the side. If I take 1 finger on that little horizontal bar below the space key, I can move this keyboard around wherever I want. The nice thing about this is the keyboard doesn't continually come up and go down. So I'm going to go ahead and type my number in for my circle. It is going to be 0.4. And then I'm going to hit the return key. Perfect. It is the right size now. It's very important that we dimension the size right away. Next up though, I need to locate the circle. If you look at it, it's not perfectly centered in this square. So we're going to use a general dimension. I want to do a dimension from the side of my square, either the left or the right. I'm going to click on that line, and then I want to very carefully click and move my cursor to that little dot in the middle of my circle. And I'm going to click in the middle of that circle. Last but not least, I'm going to carefully click and move my pointer. Ooh, looks like I've clicked on one too many things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch and open up my keyboard. I'm going to drop the keyboard down, and I'm going to hit the escape key. So what happened is I did one too many clicks. I needed to come out and drop my tool so that I can come in and grab the dimension tool again and attempt it one more time. I click on the line, I click on the point, and then I click to place this number somewhere off my part. So I'm going to open up my keyboard. I'm going to do the pinch again, put it off to the side, and I'm going to type in 0.53 as my dimension. Then I can hit the return key. So what I've just done is I've centered this left to right. Next up, while I still have the dimension tool in my hand, I want to center it from top to bottom. So I'm going to select either the top line or the bottom line. I'm going to click on one of them. Click. Then I'm going to carefully click on the dot in the middle of the circle. Click. Then I'm going to move my cursor and place this number between the arrows and off my part. Click. And I'm going to type in 0.53 and hit return. So what I've just done is I've sized it, I've located it left to right, I've located it up and down. I'm now ready to finish with the green check mark, finish my sketch. I'm ready to come over and use the extrude tool, just like we did with the grooves. I don't want it to join or poke out, so I'm going to come into the output here and change that from join to cut. Always double checking that it is flipped for me, which it has. I want to make sure when I click cut that it isn't trying to cut out of the part, because that's going to give me an error. So I have to watch for this. I also can't leave it as join in that direction, because then it's just going to try and fill that circle in. So I need cut in direction 2, the flipped, and now we need to give it a depth. On our technical sketch, we found out that the distance A, or the depth, should be 0.33. I'm going to hit return, and then I'm going to come down and click OK. So what I'd like you to do is attempt to do all 9 of these holes one at a time. It is a little tedious, but you're going to get the hang of it, and it's going to go quicker and quicker. I'm going to do one more with you guys. Please follow along because I'm going to try and do a couple mistakes. I'm going to start a 2D sketch. This time I want to show you how to do the center. I click in that square, I click the word front, I grab my circle, I click. Now, here's where I get some issues. I clicked and I held, and I get these options that pop up. So I'm gonna just come to escape. I'm gonna try it again, but this time I'm going to make sure that I click and let go. The next thing I'm gonna get is people that move this away and click and place it accidentally before they give it a dimension. So if that happens to you, what you want to do is pull up your keyboard, open up the keyboard, and using that ribbon up top, I'm going to hit escape to drop my tool first and undo to get rid of the circle so that I can try the circle again. Mistakes are going to happen, it's just part of the process. I'm going to click somewhere in the middle here. I'm going to pinch my keyboard. I want to type in my diameter of 0.4 and then I can hit return. And I have a perfectly sized circle, but it's not quite in the middle. So we need two different dimensions. The first dimension is going to be from either the left or the right of this square. I'm going to choose the left, click, to the center point, click, and then moving my mouse off the edge, click. So I want to type in 0.53 and hit return. Now I need to do one from the top of the square to the center point, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to accidentally click it and accidentally hit the green check mark without fixing it. And now I'm trying to figure out how do I go back and edit that dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my keyboard. I'm going to hit the escape key. ESC, I want to drop all my tools, make sure nothing's in my hand. Now that I don't have any tools in my hand, I can take my pointer, I can come down to that number, and I can click and hold, and I can move that number off my part. Next up, if I double click on that number while I don't have a tool in my hand, it's going to pop up and allow me to edit the dimension. So I'm going to pinch my keyboard, I'm going to delete the number that was in there, and I'm going to put in 0.53 and hit return. Looks like it moved on me, so I'm going to click and hold and drag that off my part. It doesn't hurt anything for it to be in the middle of your screen, but best practice is off your part between the arrows. So I have the size, I have the left to right, I have the up and down. I'm ready to finish my sketch. Grab my extrude tool. First thing you do is change to cut. Second thing you do is change the distance to 0.33. And then finally, you're going to click OK. I'd like you to do this a number of times. It's going to be a total of 9 holes that you put on here. And by the end of working with them, you're going to have a part that looks very similar to this, with all of those circles centered on the squares there. This is the end of Day 4 iPad edition. Do your best and good luck.